When we were kids, I said, I'll marry you. Now she's a queen and expects me to keep my promise on the quiet planet of Urindor, where the sky was a pale violet and the twin suns dipped slowly behind jagged mountains. A small human boy ran through the streets of a ruined city. Broken towers rose like the skeletons of giants, their hollow windows staring into the horizon. Dust swirled around his feet, and the wind carried the faint hum of ancient machines long silent. His name was Terran, and at 10 years old he was small for his age, with dark hair falling into his sharp eyes. He loved to explore the ruins with his best friend, Lyra, a girl from a species called the Velari, who looked almost like humans but taller, with smooth silver-blue skin and large, luminous eyes that reflected the sky. She moved with an effortless grace, like she was always on the verge of flight, though she never actually flew. Terran and Lyra had been inseparable since they were children. She had been curious and fearless, climbing ruined towers without hesitation, while he kept pace with his clever tricks and ideas. They laughed together, argued over silly things, and shared dreams of the future. But there was one thing that made their bond special, a promise neither fully understood yet. "You always run too fast," Lyra said, panting, as she tried to keep up with Terran. She stopped for a moment, brushing dust off her hands. "One day you'll get lost and never come back." Terran grinned, brushing a lock of hair from his face. "Not if I have you with me. We're a team, Lyra, remember." Lyra's eyes glimmered in the light of the setting suns. "A team, huh? You promise?" "Always," Terran said, sticking out his hand. She shook it, a gesture humans often used, and Terran felt a strange warmth in his chest. They reached the top of an old tower, the city sprawling below like a giant puzzle of ruins and shadows. Lyra leaned on the crumbling stone wall, her hair catching the last rays of sun. "You know," she said almost shyly, "humans have funny promises. They don't always mean what they say." Terran looked at her, cocky but sincere. "I always mean what I say, especially to you." Lyra blinked at him, a small smile forming. "Even if you said something silly." "What silly thing?" Terran asked, pretending to think. Lyra tilted her head. "Like if you said, 'I'll marry you when we grow up.'" Terran laughed, feeling heat rise to his cheeks. "That's silly, I'm just a kid, but okay." "If you want me to say it." He knelt and made a grand bow, joking as always. "I, Terran of Earth, promise that when we grow up I will marry Lyra of the Velari." Lyra gasped, wide-eyed, and for a moment Terran thought she would laugh, but she didn't. She simply nodded, her hands gripping the stone railing as if she were making her own silent promise. You have to remember that," she said softly. "In my world, promises are not for fun. They are important." Terran grinned, trying to hide the sudden unease in his chest. "I'll remember." The next day, everything changed. A great ship, shining silver and humming with power, descended over the city. The Velari elders had come for Lyra. She had always been special, clever, strong, wise beyond her years. But now her life was no longer her own. "Lyra," Terran shouted, running to her side. "Wait, don't go." Her eyes softened, but there was a sadness there he did not understand. "Terran, I must go. My people, they need me." "People, but we were just—" He stopped, choking on the words. "We were playing." She knelt to meet his eyes. "You don't understand. I am meant for something greater. I cannot refuse." Terran grabbed her hand, small and warm. "Then I'll come with you." Lyra shook her head gently, almost sadly. "No, Terran, this is something I must do alone." The ship lowered its platform, and soldiers in shining armor stepped forward. They were tall and imposing, their eyes blank but watchful. Lyra rose, taking a final look at the boy she had grown to love as a friend. "Remember our promise," she whispered, just loud enough for him to hear. "I will not forget." Then, in a flash of light and sound, she was gone. Terran fell to his knees, staring at the empty air where she had been. The ruins around him felt larger, emptier. The winds carried a faint hum, like the voice of the world itself lamenting the loss. Years passed. Terran grew older, taller, stronger, but the memory of Lyra never faded. He became skilled with machines, clever with words, and bold when he needed to be. But still, in quiet moments, he would look up at the stars and whisper, "I promised." Meanwhile, far away in the glittering towers of the Velari homeworld, Lyra matured into something far beyond the small girl Terran remembered. She became Queen Lyra, wise, cunning, and fiercely devoted to her people. Every day she faced advisors, generals, and nobles, all plotting their own agendas. She married none, trusted few, and remembered one thing above all, the boy who promised. Her memory of him was like a flame that never died. She had told herself she would not let politics or fear change her promise. One day she would see him again. One day she would make him honor that childhood vow. Back on Erendor, Terran often wandered the ruins alone. He tinkered with old machines, built small flying drones from scraps, and dreamed of adventure beyond the stars. Yet he had no idea the galaxy itself had plans for him, nor how quickly fate would bring the past crashing back into his life. One evening, as the twin suns dipped and the violet sky turned to deep indigo, a flash of light appeared on the horizon. A ship descended, its hull shining silver, almost like the one from his childhood memories. Terran stared, frozen. "No, it can't be," he whispered. The ship landed nearby, silent but enormous. Its doors opened and a figure stepped out, a figure taller, regal, and impossibly beautiful. The silver-blue skin, the luminous eyes, the presence that demanded attention. Lyra. The years had changed her, but not her eyes. They were the same eyes that had stared at him from the tower ruins so long ago, the eyes that had believed in a promise made between children. "Terran," she said, her voice calm, commanding, yet soft. "You promised." Terran could barely speak. His heart pounded in his chest. "Lyra, it's really you," she nodded. "I am queen now. My people need me to marry the one I promised." He shook his head, laughing nervously. "Wait, what, me? I'm just a human from a small planet. You are the one I promised," she interrupted gently. "No one else matters. You kept the promise too, though perhaps you did not know it. Now fate brings us together." Terran felt a mix of awe, fear, and excitement. Everything he had dreamed about, adventure, love, destiny, was here, and it was more than he could have imagined. But he had no idea how the galaxy would react to a human suddenly chosen as the mate of an alien queen, or how dangerous it could be just to stand beside her. The sun dipped completely, and the stars shone like diamonds over the ruins. Terran looked at the ship, then at Lyra, then back at the city he had always called home. He realized that nothing would ever be the same. The boy who made a promise among the ruins had grown into a man, and now the universe would test that promise in ways he could never imagine. He swallowed hard, then met her gaze. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll keep my promise." Lyra smiled, a glimmer of the girl he remembered shining through the queen. "Good, because this is only the beginning." And somewhere deep in the stars, the galaxy held its breath. The silver ship hummed softly as it carried Terran through the void of space. He pressed his hands against the cool glass, staring at the stars and wondering how his life had changed so suddenly. One moment, he had been a simple mechanic on Erendor, tinkering with old machines and dreaming about adventure. The next, he was traveling aboard the personal ship of Queen Lyra of the Velari Empire. He had expected her to be different, maybe smaller, maybe fragile, or perhaps just a memory of the girl he once knew. But Lyra was not a girl anymore. She was a queen. Her silver-blue skin glimmered under the soft lights of the ship's cabin, her posture regal, her eyes confident yet filled with something he could not name, trust or perhaps hope. "Do not be afraid," she said as she noticed him staring. "The ship is safe. My people are my own, loyal to me, not the rumors of humans." I never expected any of this," Terran said honestly, feeling a mixture of awe and fear. "I mean, you're a queen and I'm just me." Lyra's eyes softened. "You are the one I promised. That makes you more than enough." Terran laughed nervously. "I don't feel like enough. I barely survived on Erendor. I've never even been in space before." "Then now you will learn," she said, smiling faintly. "The universe has a way of teaching those who stand with me." "And you are standing with me, Terran?" The ship approached a world unlike anything Terran had ever seen. It was a glittering capital, filled with towers of crystal and metal that reached toward the clouds, connected by bridges that glowed with energy. Ships of all sizes flew gracefully through the sky, and massive landing pads hummed with activity. The Velari capital was alive with a strange rhythm, technology, elegance, and discipline all intertwined. Terran's mouth fell open. This is incredible." Lyra's smile turned serious. "Incredible, yes, but also dangerous. Many will not accept a human by my side. The court is full of ambitious nobles who would see me fail, or worse, see you fail. You must be careful." Terran swallowed. I'll try." Lyra nodded, her face calm. "Try is not enough. You must think and observe. And if the time comes, you must act. Are you ready?" Terran looked at her, his chest tightening. I don't know, but I will, I promise." For a moment, Lyra allowed herself a small smile, remembering the boy who had made her childhood promise. Then she reached out and lightly touched his hand. "Then that is enough for now." The first meeting with the Veilari court was not what Terran expected. The chamber was enormous, lit by soft crystal light that shifted colors like the surface of a star. Hundreds of nobles, advisors, and warriors filled the space, their eyes glinting with curiosity and suspicion. Many whispered behind their hands when they saw him, their expressions cold and calculating. Terran felt his stomach tighten. "Lyra, I don't think they like me," he muttered. "They do not have to like you," she said calmly. "They have to respect me. And if you survive today, you will earn that respect as well." A tall noble with sharp, angular features stepped forward. His silver-blue skin was darker than Lyra's, and his eyes flicked over Terran like a predator studying prey. "Your Majesty," he said with a smooth, cold tone. "I see you have chosen a human as your consort, a curious choice indeed." Terran opened his mouth to speak but stopped. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "Do not answer, observe." The man smirked. "I assume this human has skills, intelligence, strength. Or is he simply a child of Earth, a species known more for their weaknesses than their virtues?" The chamber erupted in quiet laughter from several nobles. Terran's heart sank, but he clenched his fists, remembering Lyra's words: think, observe, act. Lyra's voice cut through the whispers like a blade. "He is the one I promised," she said clearly. "That is all you need to know. Any who underestimate him will regret it." The nobles murmured uneasily, some with grudging respect, some with open scorn. The tall noble bowed stiffly, hiding his irritation. "As you wish, your Majesty, but time will tell if a human can truly stand beside a queen." Terran nodded silently. He did not know if he could live up to Lyra's expectations, but he felt something ignite inside him, a determination to prove that humanity is stronger than anyone believed. Over the next weeks, Terran tried to learn everything about the Veilari Empire. He observed the political meetings, studied the maps of star systems, and even followed military drills from a safe distance. The nobles tried to humiliate him at every opportunity. They would pose questions about strategy, logistics, or trade and smirk when he hesitated. Terran made mistakes. He gave simple human answers that sounded naive to the aliens, but slowly he began to notice patterns that others missed. He saw the flaws in overcomplicated plans, the inefficiency of relying solely on tradition, and the hidden opportunities that common sense could reveal. Lyra watched silently, impressed. "You see what they do not see," she whispered one evening as they walked along a balcony overlooking the glowing city. "That is the human advantage, simple thought, unexpected insight." Terran shrugged. "I'm just trying not to embarrass myself. You're the queen." "You don't need me." She stopped and faced him, her eyes intense. "I do need you, not because you are strong in battle, not because you are clever, though you are. I need you because you stand with me when others would not. That is worth more than armies, Terran." He felt a warmth in his chest, a mix of pride and fear. I'll try to be worthy," he said softly. Lyra smiled. "You already are in ways you cannot yet understand." But not all in the Empire was peaceful. A rival faction had grown increasingly restless. They resented a human being so close to the queen and whispered among themselves of rebellion and intrigue. One evening, Terran found himself alone in a hallway when a group of nobles approached, their faces masks of polite civility. "Human," one said, voice low and cold. "The queen favors you. That is dangerous. Do you know what dangers await?" Terran straightened. "I don't know, but I'm not afraid." The noble laughed softly, a sound that made Terran's skin crawl. "Fear will come, and when it does, your frailty will be exposed. Do you understand? You are nothing but a boy from a small planet. You cannot survive here without her protection." "I don't plan to survive because of her protection," Terran said quietly. "I plan to survive because I can, and if anyone tries to hurt her, they will regret it." The nobles blinked, surprised by his calm tone, but said nothing more. They left, and Terran continued down the hallway, heart-pounding. Lyra's words echoed in his mind. Humans survive when others underestimate them. Weeks passed, and the tension grew. Terran was learning, observing, and slowly earning a grudging respect from some of the more intelligent nobles. Others still mocked him openly. Then came the first real test. Intelligence reports warned of a smaller alien fleet preparing to strike the capital. The Veilari military had plans, of course, but Terran noticed a critical flaw. The enemy could bypass the defense shields if they attacked from an unusual angle, a route no Veilari strategist had considered. He hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should speak up. What if they laughed? What if he made a mistake and exposed himself? But then he thought of Lyra, the girl who believed in him as a child, and the queen who trusted him now. His voice was steady as he addressed the War Council. "There's a weak point in the defenses," he said simply. "If the enemy approaches from the northern route, the shields will not fully cover that sector. I can suggest a way to strengthen it, using existing resources without slowing the fleet." The room fell silent. Many of the nobles whispered, some scoffing, but Lyra's eyes were sharp, assessing him carefully. "Explain," she said. Taran stepped forward and detailed a simple yet effective adjustment to the shield alignment and fleet positioning. He drew diagrams with his own hand, showing how small changes could save the city from a devastating blow. After a tense moment, the commander nodded. It could work." The queen turned to Taran, her face proud. "See, you think like no one else here. That is why you are here." The night before the battle, Taran stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Ships glimmered like stars, ready to defend their home. The galaxy might laugh at a human beside a queen, but he now understood the truth. Human ingenuity and courage could change the course of events. Lyra joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Tomorrow will test you, but remember, you are not alone." Taran nodded. "I know, and I'm ready to try." For the first time, he felt that the promise he had made as a child was not just a silly joke. It was the beginning of something far greater than either of them could have imagined. Above them, the stars shone silently, as if waiting to see whether a human could truly stand beside a queen and prove the galaxy wrong. The sun had barely risen over the crystal towers of the Velari capital when the alarms blared across the city. Red lights flashed along the bridges and plazas. Ships lifted from the hangars and rose into the sky with the hum of energy engines. Taran stood at Lyra's side, the wind tugging at his hair and clothes as the first signs of the enemy fleet appeared on the horizon. "They're coming," Lyra said calmly, though her eyes were sharp, scanning every point in the sky. "The fleet has taken positions, but I want you at my side. I trust your judgment." Taran swallowed hard. He felt fear rising like a wave, but he forced himself to stand tall. "I'll do my best. Your best is enough," Lyra said, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "Remember, humans see what others overlook. Trust yourself." The enemy fleet emerged from the edge of space like a dark storm. Ships of strange design glinted ominously, bristling with weapons and shields. The Velari fleet, though larger and more technologically advanced, would be at a disadvantage if they followed standard tactics. Taran had studied their formations carefully and already noticed a flaw. The northern route was underdefended, just as he had warned. The generals in the war room had been skeptical. Many still believed a human could not contribute to a battle of this scale. But Lyra had insisted. "Position the ships according to his plan," she had commanded. "Do it exactly as he says. The city will live or fall based on his insight." Some muttered under their breath, while others glared at Taran, their pride wounded. But Taran did not flinch. He took a deep breath, focusing on the maps before him. When the first shots were fired, the battle became chaos. Energy beams streaked across space, missiles detonated in brilliant flashes, and the hum of countless engines filled the void. Taran followed Lyra into the command bridge, where the fleet was monitored through a massive holographic display. The enemy ships moved with calculated aggression, attempting to flank the Velari fleet from the north. Taran's eyes widened, exactly as he had predicted. He called out, his voice clear and urgent. "Divert the shield focus to the northern sector. Concentrate the long-range cannons there, then rotate the frigates to intercept. We can block them before they reach the city." Some of the commanders hesitated, clearly annoyed that a human was giving orders. But Lyra's hand shot up, stopping them. "Do it," she commanded. "Trust him, he is right." Taran watched as the fleet obeyed. The shields shimmered and shifted. The cannons aligned and fired. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then the enemy ships collided with the redirected defenses, their assault breaking apart in a storm of energy. The bridge erupted in gasps and cheers. Many of the Velari generals looked at Taran with a new respect, though a few still clenched their fists in frustration. As the battle raged, Taran moved from station to station, offering advice where his perspective mattered most. He pointed out weak points in enemy formations, suggested rapid maneuvers, and even proposed using smaller human-style evasive tactics that the Velari had never considered. One moment, a squadron of enemy fighters slipped past the outer shield and aimed directly for the city's energy cores. Taran grabbed a comm link. "Frigates Alpha and Beta, Move to intercept and divert secondary shields to cover the cores. Fire only when aligned. The frigates obeyed, their movements precise. The enemy fighters were caught in the trap, destroyed before they could reach their target. Terran exhaled, his heart pounding. Lyra stepped beside him, her eyes scanning the battle display. "You are not just helping, Terran. You are saving lives." Terran shook his head, almost embarrassed. "I'm just noticing things others miss," she smiled. "That is exactly why humans are dangerous, Terran. You see possibilities where giants see rules." Hours passed. The battle seemed endless, the sky above the capital streaked with flashes of light and smoke trails from destroyed ships. Terran had never imagined war like this, so vast, so chaotic, so alive. But with every decision he made, he felt a strange sense of confidence growing inside him. Humans survived by thinking differently, by being unpredictable, and by daring to act when others hesitated. The enemy fleet adapted, sending more ships to exploit the northern sector. Terran noticed a pattern. They expected the Velari to respond with overwhelming force, but their overconfidence made them vulnerable. "Lyra," he said quickly, pointing at the holographic display. "They're relying too much on their formation. If we divide the fleet just enough to force them into two groups, we can isolate their command ships, hit them directly, and the rest will panic." Lyra's eyes shone with admiration. "That is risky, but you're right, do it." The maneuver was executed, and it worked perfectly. The enemy command ships were destroyed, and the rest of their fleet faltered. Panic spread like wildfire, and the Velari forces pressed their advantage, pushing the enemy back. Even as victory approached, not all nobles were convinced of Terran's value. One elder approached him after the battle, face tight with anger. "You are a human," he said coldly. "You have survived this battle by luck and by fluke tactics. The Queen is kind to you, but do not think this changes your place. We are not humans." Terran met his gaze without fear. "Maybe not, but humans think differently, and today thinking differently saved your fleet and your city. I don't need to be you. I only need to be me, and that is enough." The elder blinked, taken aback by the calm confidence in Terran's voice. For the first time, he realized that the human beside the Queen was not weak. He was dangerous, not because of size or weapons, but because of mind and courage. After the battle, the city celebrated. The Velari citizens cheered as the fleet returned, their lights reflecting like stars on the crystal towers. Lyra walked with Terran through the streets, pointing out the grateful faces of those saved. "You did well today," she said softly. "Better than well." "You were remarkable," Terran smiled, feeling a mix of pride and exhaustion. "I just tried to help. I never expected it would go this far." Lyra shook her head. "That is what humans do, Terran. You see the small things, the overlooked possibilities, and you act. That is your greatest strength." For the first time, Terran felt something he had never felt before, belonging, not just as Lyra's friend, but as someone who mattered in a galaxy far larger than himself. The next days brought new challenges. The nobles who had mocked him now regarded him with cautious respect. Some tried to test him with political questions, but Terran had learned to observe, to think, and to answer carefully. He was not a Velari, but he was not powerless either. He began to see that humans had a gift the Velari lacked, the ability to adapt, to improvise, and to act courageously when fear would freeze others. His small ideas, simpler than the grand strategies of the Velari, were often the most effective. Lyra noticed how quickly Terran was growing in confidence. "Do you see?" she said one evening as they watched the sun set behind the towers. "The galaxy may underestimate humans, Terran, but you are proof of what we are capable of." Terran shook his head, smiling faintly. "I'm just a human." "You are more than that," Lyra said firmly, "because you act when others hesitate, because you stand when others fall. That is the heart of humanity, Terran, and that is why I trust you." But the battle had revealed something more than the enemy's weakness. It had shown the humans' courage, the unpredictability that even Lyra's most skilled generals could not replicate. Rumors began to spread across the Empire. A human beside the Queen could think, act, and survive when others failed. Some were impressed, some envious, and some openly fearful. The next test was coming. Another fleet would soon challenge the Velari, larger and more dangerous than the first. This time, Terran would have to prove more than luck or cleverness. He would have to lead, to inspire, and to survive against overwhelming odds. For now, though, the city celebrated. Citizens sang songs of victory, towers glittered in the light of festivity, and Terran felt a strange, humbling pride. He had gone from a small boy running through ruins to a human who had helped change the course of an empire's history. Lyra took his hand, their fingers brushing naturally. "Tomorrow will be harder," she said quietly, "but I know we will face it together." Terran looked at her, feeling fear and excitement at the same time. "I'm ready," he said. "Whatever comes, I'll stand with you." Lyra smiled, a mix of queenly authority and the little girl he had once promised to marry. "And that is why you are extraordinary, Terran. Not because of strength or size or skill, but because of your courage, your heart, and your promise." Above them, the stars shimmered silently, a galaxy watching as a human began to leave his mark on history. The Velari capital was alive with tension. Terran walked alongside Lyra through the corridors of the royal palace, feeling the weight of the galaxy pressing down on them. The previous battle had proven his value, but a larger, more dangerous enemy fleet was gathering at the edge of known space. The whispers in the court were louder now. Some nobles grudgingly respected him, others plotted quietly to undermine him. Terran clenched his fists. He had never wanted power, titles, or recognition. He had only wanted to keep a childhood promise. Yet now the galaxy seemed to demand more of him than he had ever imagined. Lyra glanced at him, her eyes soft but determined. "This next battle will not be easy. The enemy fleet is stronger, faster, and smarter than the last, but we will not fail." "You understand your role, don't you?" Terran nodded, trying to steady his racing heart. "Yes, observe, adapt, act like last time," she smiled faintly. "Exactly, but remember, humans have limits too. You will need courage, quick thinking, and your unique perspective." The War Council met in the Grand Chamber, a massive circular room with a holographic map of the galaxy floating above its center. Generals, nobles, and advisors leaned over it, arguing about strategy. "The enemy will attack the southern corridor," one general said, voice filled with authority. "Our defenses there are strongest. We will repel them easily." Another noble laughed softly. "Yes, of course, because our enemy always attacks where we expect them. Clever humans are different, perhaps, but we are Velari." Terran studied the map, noticing a subtle detail no one else seemed to see. "They won't attack the south," he said quietly, "not directly. They'll send a decoy fleet there to draw our main forces, then strike the northern and eastern sectors simultaneously. If we leave those points underdefended, the city will fall in hours." The room went silent. Many looked at him with disbelief. One older general sneered. "And how would a human know such things?" Lyra's voice cut through sharply. "He observed the enemy movement's last battle. He thinks differently. We will listen." The generals exchanged uneasy glances but began repositioning forces according to Terran's plan. That night, Terran could barely sleep. He walked along the palace balcony, staring at the twin moons reflecting in the city's river of light. The human had survived a previous battle through clever observation and unconventional thinking, but this time, the stakes were higher. Lyra joined him silently, her hand brushing his arm. "You worry too much," she said softly. "Do you remember when we were children? You promised and you meant it. That same courage is in you now." Terran smiled faintly, the memory warm in his chest. "I never thought a promise could become so important." She looked at him with intensity. "It is not just a promise, Terran. It is proof of something the galaxy forgets. Humans can endure, adapt, and act when all others hesitate. That is why I trust you." Her words strengthened him. The quiet strength of humanity, something he had always taken for granted, was becoming clear to him. The next day, the enemy fleet appeared. It was vast, its ships dark and angular, bristling with weapons. They moved with precision, sending decoy ships toward the southern defenses exactly as Terran predicted. Lyra's fleet responded immediately, sending the bulk of the forces south to meet the decoy. The enemy smiled, thinking their plan was working. But Terran had already prepared the northern and eastern sectors, placing the fastest frigates and energy cannons where the enemy would strike. "Focus the shields on the northern corridor," Terran instructed. "Divert frigates to intercept the fast strike units. Use the eastern cannons to create a crossfire. They will not expect it." Some commanders hesitated. "A human giving orders again?" one muttered. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Do it." The ships obeyed. The northern enemy fleet entered the trap. Crossfire from energy cannons struck with deadly precision, while nimble frigates maneuvered to block escape routes. Ships were destroyed in brilliant flashes of light. Terran's heart raced. He could feel the tide of battle shifting in real time, his mind calculating angles, speeds, and patterns that others missed. Humanity's strength lay not in power, but in perception, adaptability, and courage. Even as the battle raged, political intrigue festered in the background. Some Velari nobles attempted to sabotage Terran's influence, feeding false reports or withholding resources. Terran noticed these discrepancies and confronted them calmly. "You think hiding information will help?" he asked one noble quietly. "The enemy does not care about politics, they attack weakness. Humanity survives by seeing reality, not by pretending it's different. If you do not act honestly, more lives will be lost." The noble stiffened but said nothing. Terran had learned that sometimes courage meant speaking truth even to those with power. Hours passed. The enemy pressed harder, but Terran's adjustments and quick thinking kept the Velari fleet alive. He suggested unconventional maneuvers, like feints and small surprise attacks using the smallest human-inspired ships, movements that Velari doctrine had never considered. The enemy began to falter. Their formations were broken, and panic spread. Terran noticed the enemy commander moving ships to regroup. "Focus all energy on their flagship," he instructed. "If we take out the command ship, the rest will scatter. We can do it with minimal losses." Lyra hesitated only a moment. "Do it," she said, her voice firm. The Velari fleet executed the maneuver flawlessly. The flagship exploded in a shower of light and fire, and the remaining enemy ships fled into space, broken and defeated. The city erupted in celebration. Citizens flooded the streets, cheering, singing, and lighting lanterns. The Queen walked among them with Terran, proud and relieved. "You see now," Lyra said quietly as they stood on a balcony overlooking the celebration. "Humans are dangerous, not because of weapons or size, but because of courage, creativity, and determination." "You are proof of that, Terran," he smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "I never wanted glory, I only wanted to keep a promise." "And that promise has changed the galaxy," Lyra said. "Your courage inspired not only me but all who fight beside us. You see what others cannot." "That is why humanity survives." Terran realized the truth in her words. Humans were underestimated everywhere. Their strength was quiet, patient, and invisible until action was required. And when action was required, humans could be unstoppable. In the days following the battle, Terran's reputation grew. He was no longer seen merely as a human beside the Queen. He became a symbol of hope, ingenuity, and resilience. Some nobles still doubted him, but even they could not ignore the results of his ideas and courage. Lyra's advisors began to consult him regularly. They asked his thoughts on fleet positioning, supply lines, and even political negotiations. He listened, adapted, and offered simple yet effective solutions that Velari tradition had overlooked. Slowly, the court began to see that humans had value beyond what they had imagined. Yet the victory also brought responsibility. Terran was not a soldier by training, nor a politician by birth. Every suggestion he made could cost lives if wrong. The weight of that responsibility was heavy, but he embraced it, remembering the girl he had promised to marry. One evening, Lyra approached him as he studied maps in her private chambers. "You have grown, Terran," she said softly. "Not in strength, but in mind and heart. That is what makes you remarkable." "I'm still just a human," he said. "I make mistakes. I don't belong here." "You do belong," she said firmly, placing her hand on his shoulder. "Because you act when others hesitate, because you see truth where others see fear. That is why I trust you. That is why I chose you." Terran felt his chest swell. The childhood promise he had made had grown into something larger than either of them had imagined. He had not only survived, but had changed the course of history with quiet courage, human ingenuity, and determination. But the galaxy was not done testing them. The enemy they had defeated was only the first of many. Rumors spread of fleets moving in the shadows, of allies turned enemies, of powers that underestimated the humans at their peril. Terran stood on the balcony with Lyra, watching the twin moons rise. "The battles are far from over," he said. "No," Lyra agreed. "But humanity has shown its strength, quiet, patient, and dangerous when needed. And now we are stronger because you are here." Terran smiled faintly, remembering the ruined towers of Urindor, the girl who had believed in promises and the path that had led him here. "I'll keep the promise," he said softly. "No matter what comes." Lyra's eyes glimmered. "And that is why I will always trust humans, Terran. You are not just beside me, you are part of the future." Above them, the stars shimmered silently, a galaxy watching as a human's quiet strength began to leave an indelible mark on history.